Tatum African American Resource Center of the Toledo Lucas County Public Library proudly presents the Edrene Cole Oral History Project. This unique undertaking spotlights the Edrene Cole Collection, a compiled oral history of film and transcriptions. This special collection is named after the late Edrene Cole, a local historian and educator who devoted much of her life to documenting and sharing the stories of noteworthy Toledoans in the African American community. With the Oral History Project, the Tatum Center honors Cole's memory and continues her work. Join us and University of Toledo anthropology professor Dr. Willie McKether as Toledo's very own African Americans share the rich stories of their lives.
Hi, I'm Willie McKether. In this segment, we're pleased to welcome another one of Toledo's favorite native sons, Mr. Clifford Murphy. Mr. Murphy, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Murphy, you've had a distinguished career as a musician and continue to have a wonderful career, and I'd like to cover a lot of that. But before doing so, I'd like to go back and talk a little bit about your early history here in Toledo. Now, I know that you were born on February 5th, 1932 here in Toledo to Robert and Susie Murphy, who came from Atlanta. Do you have an idea of when or why they came to Toledo?
Oh, well, the situations naturally were better in the north for them than it was in the south.
So they would have come maybe during the time of the Great Depression to find better opportunities here in the north than in the south?
Probably.
Probably so. Okay,
You
good,
know,
good.
I was born in the Depression.
Were either of your parents musicians?
Well, my mom played piano,
Okay.
and my father was a preacher.
So your mother played the piano and your dad was a musician?
Gospel piano.
Gospel piano, okay. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Oh, yes. I was born in a family of 4 boys and 4 girls.
Where do you find in that fall in that family?
Well, by being the oldest son,
Okay.
and the things I heard in music was the bass.
Okay, okay, good.
And they would sing, I would sing the bass parts.
You tell me at one point that while attending church, that the bass would be the one thing that you would hear a lot in your head. How did your dad respond to that?
Oh, well, until I drove him nuts. I used to go ding, 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 you know, with my mouth. I can remember one time he was telling me to take my boom boom butt and get out of here.
But that was sort of your early beginnings of hearing the bass sound. Mm-hmm. Okay, good, good. Let's go back and talk about school. What schools did you attend here in Toledo?
Elementary school was Washington, and from Washington to Robinson, and from Robinson to Scott.
And you graduated from Scott in about 1950?
52.
52? Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. Were you a pretty good student?
Well, I think so. The principal didn't think so.
In high school, were you involved in sports or any bands early on?
Well, it started off, I played a little football and a little basketball, but I never liked it. My parents didn't like me being in them because they're always afraid I would get hurt, you know.
Okay, okay.
Never to end my career, you know, but I stayed with the music.
Tell me a little bit about one of the first bands that you were in that included a guy named Benson, Robert Hendricks, and Tracy. What band was that?
Oh, that was our high school band. That was the first band we were in. We only knew 3 or 4 tunes. We got a job for the Elks, and we played the first set. After playing the first set, playing the same songs over and over again, the guy paid us off.
Now, one of your band members, who was the brother of Edrene Cole, had a nickname of Blue Moon.
Yeah, because he only sang that one song, Blue Moon. So he's standing alone.
Okay, so you guys knew a couple of tunes, but that kept you afloat for a little while then.
Yes.
Okay, so when did you first start playing your first musical instrument?
The first two was at home. My relatives, my aunt suggested that my parents get a piano in the house, and so they got this piano, and I first started off on the piano.
Okay.
And from the piano to saxophone, and I studied. There's a music place downtown called the Bach Conservatory.
Okay.
I studied there
Okay, good.
for saxophone, and taking a couple lessons in piano, but I still want to play the bass,
The bass was still in your ear.
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to come back and talk about your musical career, but before doing so, let's talk about some of your when you lived early in life. I know that you grew up in two locations, one on Pinewood and the other at 549 Woodland,
Right.
Here in Toledo.
Right.
Which of these homes was near our Tatum's home?
Right. About 4 doors, Woodland.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, Woodland, the street runs right into Tatum's house.
Now, did you have much interaction with any of the Tatum family growing up?
Oh, yes. The nephew and niece, they went to Scott, And I used to go Scott with them, but we never had a chance to go inside of the house, but
Okay.
especially when Tatum was there,
Mm-hmm.
playing or something.
Mm-hmm.
The closest I got to that was sitting on the porch, listening.
Listening, but I'd imagine just listening. And at that point, he had not reached the fame that he ultimately reached, but just growing up, could you just kind of hear something special in his music?
Well, to me, he was famous, because he was coming in and out of town and back and forth from New York,
Okay, yeah.
And the people in New York refer to him as God.
Is that right?
So he was famous to
So he was
me.
famous then.
Yeah.
What's your memory of Dorr Street in its heyday? And I want to ask you also, did Indiana Avenue precede Dorr Street as being the mecca or the place for Toledo, for black people?
No, before Dorr Street was that popular with the nightclubs and all, Indiana Street and Division Street, there were clubs, black clubs on all the streets. As a matter of fact, that's where I first played with Jimmy Smith on Division Street at a place called the Blue Haven.
Okay.
Blue Haven. And he come in town with an attachment that you set over the piano keys and a Leslie speaker that made it sound like an organ.
Okay.
When he played,
Okay.
And there were so many artists that coming through Toledo, And then of course there was Tate's, and that was on Belmont and Tecumseh, I believe,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you had a chance to play with many of these people over the course of your career.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm going to come back and ask you about some of the great people that you've played with. But let me get back and ask you about church as you're growing up. I know you mentioned that your father was a minister.
Right.
How important was church in your life as you were coming of age?
Well, when I was younger, we went to church 7 days a week.
Wow.
As the kids, the parents made us go to church, and my father wanted me to be a preacher, but I wasn't doing that. I had that bass, and my aunt, my mother's sister,
Mm-hmm.
she used to take me out when I was young and let me sit on the bandstand right along with the
Really?
these players.
That kind of influenced
Oh,
your
yeah.
career. Well, how did your father, being a minister, feel about secular music and about you playing secular music in particular?
Oh, they didn't want me to do it. Not at all and everything. He says you get out there and be smoking that dope and be jumping off the Empire State Building. And so I didn't, that didn't bother me to stop thinking and wanting to get out and play, you know.
But so you still pursued your dream?
Right.
Okay, good. Let's move forward and talk a little bit about what you did after high school. I know that after high school, you volunteered and you joined the U.S. military to participate in the Korean War. What inspired you to join the military?
Well, I was listening to relatives that was in the Second World War. This one relative in particular was telling me about Japanese women. And that came in my mind. And I jumped up and joined the Army and volunteered for Japan.
Okay.
In duty in Japan. And when I was in Japan, we were in there in Japan 2 weeks, and the war breaks out in Korea. And we were the first to go over.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you serve in segregated units in the military, or were they more integrated?
Oh, it was not integrated. It didn't become integrated until, I guess, AACP or what they were, that organization started telling them that they had to mix up the groups and all that. And so the first thing they done was got Southern officers to be in charge of the black soldiers, you know.
Now, were these white or black officers?
White officers.
So Southern white officers to be over these black units?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And I was in the infantry. So, and they threatened to, if we didn't follow orders, they threatened to kill us.
Really?
To shoot us, you know.
Okay.
But they used that term lightly because we had guns too.
Sure. So, how did people treat you in Japan versus the United States? Was there a difference?
Oh, well, of course it is. They were great, you know. And they thought that we were great, you know. They referred to us as chocolate soldiers.
Is that right?
You know.
Now, I know that you got injured. You went to Korea. Now, did you get injured while you were in Korea? So once you got injured, what happened after you got injured?
Well, after I got injured, I went to the hospital and was shipped to Japan.
Okay.
And then back to Korea again, you know, because some general says as long as you got a finger that can shoot, you know, you don't need to be laying up in the hospital. And so they shipped us back to Korea.
But you received injury to your hand, your arm, your leg, your feet. You were pretty injured.
Yeah.
Okay. But still, they sent you back to Korea.
Oh yeah.
Now, is that when you became a military policeman? At that point?
Yeah. They gave us a chance to name our. There's a number that you follow in. I forgot that. This was in the 50s.
Okay, sure.
And that number I chose was a military policeman. And that, by choosing that, I thought I was going to have to stay in Japan with that. But I still went back to Korea as a military policeman, you know.
Okay.
And we were in charge of, I think it was the Incheon in Korea, in charge of the little town there.
Okay.
And as the MP.
As the MP.
Yeah, we were policing the area.
Okay. Now, from your injuries, are any of your injuries sort of lingering? Do you still have any physical conditions as a result of the injury?
Yeah, but I don't know. I can't say for sure it's from, you know, the injuries or the wounds, you know. Okay. For that, you know.
Okay, good. So then you served in the military in the Korean War, and you got discharged in what, 1953, 54?
53.
53. What did you do after you got discharged?
After I was discharged, I can remember driving home, and I had gotten this mustered out pay, And my regular pay, I had a bundle of money in my pocket. My mom says, let's go downtown and get some new clothes, you know, because my body and everything was different.
Sure, sure.
So the bus stopped in front of a Green's music store. I spotted this bass in the window, because before that, I was borrowing everybody's bass, you know, to play with. My parents were going to afford.
Okay.
And so we stopped there, we went inside this music store, and I come out with this bass. After getting off the bus, I bought all the parts to go with it, and my mom, I can remember my mom saying, now how are we going to get home? I said, I'll walk this. I felt so proud, you know, owning my own.
Yeah.
And so we walked that home, you know.
So that was your first bass then?
That was mine, yeah.
That was yours. So then, let me go back then. You started off playing piano and saxophone.
Right.
At what point then did you transition or change from that and start playing the bass?
Well, I was trying to play the bass all the time. Anytime I would see a bass, you know, and there was this one guy that tried to play bass in the neighborhood, and we call him, his nickname, we call him Pluck Pluck. Because he didn't know how to tune it or nothing, you know.
Okay.
And when they let me use it, he'd tell me, don't tune it because I'll break the strings. You know?
Okay. So then you started playing bass before you left for the military then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay.
Actually, before I got in there, too.
Did you?
I was, yeah, whenever I would see a bass, you know, I would just wanted to get my hands on it.
Okay. So when you first started playing it, how did you know how to play? I mean, did you just pick it up and did it come natural for you?
Well, most of it come natural, you know, and then from other bass players, you know, I would, and I bought a book that also, but the piano was my guide though, because once I got the piano, well, I visualized the notes on the piano with the strings on the bass, you know, and all I had to do was learn where the positions were.
But no, at some point you also attended Bach Conservatory and
Right.
you got some
Right.
formal instruction as well. Okay, okay. Let's go back then. So then you returned home to Toledo in about 1953.
Right.
You purchased a bass versus buying clothes.
Right.
About how much did that bass cost you back then?
I think I spent about $700 for the bass and the cover, the bow, and stand. I bought everything to go with it, you know.
That was a decent amount of money in 1953.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it sure was.
Okay. And so then you bought that bass and you walked it home because it wouldn't fit on the bus.
Well, the bus driver wasn't going to let me get on there with the bass. I didn't even bother asking.
Okay, but you walked proudly home with that bass.
Yeah.
And so now, when you came back to Toledo, did you work at Rossford Ordnance for a little while as well?
When I got out of the service, as the first major job, you know, that I had was out at Rossford Ordnance, and I remember working with this one guy out there, and I got hurt out there. I think we had an acid explosion. We were unloading some acids in some big jars, and we set it down too hard, and the cork went off. And before I made it to the office, it ate all the clothes and part of my skin too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. But hopefully you healed pretty good from that.
Oh, well, yeah, I got a couple of marks, you know what I mean?
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So then, when you returned after the military, is that when you met your wife Lillian when you returned from the war?
I met her while I was in the war. And we were, after I come back from Korea, we were stationed at Fort Devens at Southeast.
Okay.
And they used to bring women out to the base and have dance parties and they were chaperone, you know, these women there, and that's where I met her.
Okay.
And I can remember asking her to, after I got out of service, I wrote her a letter and asked her to marry me. And I think the letter arrived Monday, and Thursday she was in Toledo.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you proposed through a letter then? Oh, okay. Well, it worked, obviously. It worked.
Yep.
Okay. Now, did you two have any kids together?
Oh, yeah. We had 4 girls and a son.
And a son.
My son has been in the Marines for 26 years. He gets out in March. He just bought a home in, come here on a furlough, and bought a home on Gardner Road here in Toledo.
Is that right? Any grandchildren?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Every time they call me up, tell me they have a grandchild. Dad, you got another grandchild.
So the family continues to grow.
Yeah.
At some point, you helped to open an aluminum factory.
Right.
And how did that come about?
Well, I was working at the Cool. That was a club in Toledo.
What's it called again?
A Cool.
A Cool. Okay.
This is on Monroe Street, and where Bancroft runs into Monroe, and there's a rallies there. That's where the Cool was, right there. And then we used to play. I was playing with the house band, and we used to play with big acts that come through there, and. These people was living at the Cool. They were from California, and they said after being there a week, the guy said, "Well, Murph says it's been nice because every night I would sit and talk. You know, we have a couple of drinks and sit and talk with them." And they said, "Well, Clifford," he says, "you've been such a nice old chap, man. If ever we can do something for you, let us know." And so I was joking with him. I said, "Well, you can do something for me. You can get me one of those $1,000 a week jobs."
Sure. Yeah.
And so they taken off. And about, I'd say about, this was in July when they were there. And in November, I got this letter that said, "Are you still interested?"
Really?
You know, and because I already knew that they were going to open up this aluminum plant.
Okay.
And they're moving everything from there. And they asked me, and they wanted me to be over the factory, person in charge. And so at that time, I was had been working for the city, and I quit the city, and I quit the city, and had a chance to go to Las Vegas with this guy that I was working with at the Cool. I went to Las Vegas.
That was at Glen Covington or Louis?
Glen Covington.
Glen Covington. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, we went there. And I would come back. Oh, wait a minute! I worked at the Kaiser Aluminum first, and was working at nights at this Cool with Glenn, and that's when we went to Las Vegas. So I quit. I had only stayed about a year at this factory. I could have been. But I wanted music. You
wanted music.
Yeah.
So then there was more than Cliff Murphy than the musician. You also you're pretty smart in order to get picked to help open this factory up.
Well, it didn't take too many smarts, you know. Just some good bringing up, you know, and listen to mom and dad, you know.
Okay.
And because I got in with the city, and that was, and the way that come about, when after I got hurt out at Rossford, Ordnance, I was off for a minute, and so I need money enough to come into the house, and so I was getting some help from the relief program.
Okay.
And that only lasted a couple of weeks, because I went out and told the lady that let me go out and work in the parks and earn some money. You know, I don't want nobody handing me anything, you know.
Sure, sure.
And so I was working in the parks department, picking up bottles and trash out of the parks, keeping the parks clean. Mm-hmm. And about a week or two, and then they asked me if I want a job. I said, yeah.
You took it, yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay,
so,
good.
and from that, and I'd taken a test to be equipment operator, and I passed that, come in first place, and he gave me, next thing I was operating the equipment.
Okay.
Which I told him a big lie about asking me that I know how to run this bulldozer.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I can run anything you got in here. But so when they gave me these big machines, you know, I would ask these guys that were running them, you know, the basic fundamentals.
Sure, sure.
Next thing you know, there I was, you know.
Figured it out.
They had, you know, operating plows and caterpillars and everything, you know.
Okay. So there comes a point where you get a chance to leave Toledo and tour with Glenn Covington. Mm-hmm. You moved to New York, is that correct?
Oh, yeah. In New York, we went to Las Vegas. We played all the big resort areas. You know, we played.
And two questions. Mm-hmm. First question, how did your wife feel about you traveling and touring? And then your experiences. So let's deal with the first question.
No, she didn't want that. My mother-in-law said, "Why don't he get a real job?" And no, they didn't want that at all. But I went, as a matter of fact, Louis Payne is the first one that I traveled with.
Okay.
You know, and I left with Louis Payne, and the pay was only about $90 a week.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, was that more or less than what you were making working for the city?
No, I think every 2 weeks I've got almost $300, you know.
So it was a lot less then.
Yeah.
But you were happier because you were playing your bass.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Before you go any further, let me just stop and ask you about race relations in Toledo. Some people have described race relations as being really bad. Others said it wasn't that bad. In your estimation, how were race relations during the time in which you were growing up, and when you came back from Korea? How would you describe race relations in Toledo?
Well, I lived on a thing, you know, that I got from my parents, that is hating the condition rather than hating the people, and doing something about the condition. Mm. And so this is how I carry myself. But for me, I knew there was bad relationships, you know, as far as with a lot of people. But for me, I always got around that, you know, like and remained tall, you know, and I made my own way. That's a better way of putting it, you know. I can't say that I can sit there and complain about this and complain about that, because if there was a wall here, well, there was another way around that wall, you know.
Okay.
Where I kept on stepping, you know.
Okay.
So it didn't bother me like, you know, it bothered a lot of people, you know.
Okay. So then you knew it existed, but you didn't let it be a barrier to your success.
Right.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever sensed that your race or skin color either helped or hindered your career?
Well, I know sometimes it gets in the way, but, you know, again, you can't let it be a barrier, you know, else you'll never get anywhere.
Okay. Good. Okay.
And I'm one of the few guys that worked in more white clubs and black clubs and everything, because of the way I think that I was brought up and carrying myself, you know. And I knew enough not to be an idiot, you know.
Sure.
So.
Sure. You mentioned at one point that while you were in Las Vegas playing, that some famous people, maybe Sammy Davis Jr., wasn't able to stay in all the places. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, well, I can remember when we first went out there, well, Sammy Davis Jr. was performing in a big club there, but he couldn't live there. He had to live on the other side of the tracks, you know.
Really?
Yeah. It obviously didn't bother him.
Okay. Any other? I know you, at one point when you met Joan, who's your current partner and manager as well, and the band traveled throughout the South.
You're right.
Any experiences of traveling throughout the South with this all-black band and this white woman who's your manager?
Well, we had a white singer in the band too.
Okay.
And and Joan, by her being, she was born in Massachusetts, and she didn't know nothing about the South, but what she read. And so she went out and find us a place to live, and the first place she finds is in an all-white neighborhood. She didn't know any better.
Okay.
But the people were totally nice, you know, and they just like. Of course, they knew we weren't going to stay there a lifetime.
Sure.
And so, she went out and rented this house from this young guy. The guy that had the house.
Okay.
And we all lived in there. Our drummer used to go jogging with the singer, the white singer. Okay. I used to tell him, I said, "Fool, don't be out there running, running behind her." I said, "You're in bad shape if you run in front of her."
You're in bad shape behind her.
Yeah. And they used to laugh about that, but it didn't bother them. They were used to go out jogging every day.
Okay.
And I used to go out, and we had a dog with us. I used to go walk for hours.
And never
with
a
the
problem?
dog. Nobody never bothered me.
How about when you went to restaurants? Did you ever get stared at?
Oh,
Going
yeah.
to restaurants?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, they were staring, but I didn't pay any attention to it. Joan, it bothered Joan a little bit. You know, she said, "Clifford, they're staring at us and everything." I said, "Don't even look at them." I said, "That's stand."
That's their problem. I know this, at some point you came off the road and you came back to Toledo and you started the Murphys. How did that come about?
Well, after working with Glenn and traveling around with Glenn, you know, to all these places, and he helped us, you know, to put us in different rooms that I played with him, you know. And the first one was in Windsor, Canada.
Okay.
It was the first room that he hooked us up, you know, and got us there.
Okay.
But we rehearsed the band for 4 or 5 months, and 7 days a week. We had this rehearsal right out in Waterville.
Okay.
And from then on, you know, and Joan was a seamstress, and she was originally a school teacher. She taught out at Maumee Valley Country Day School.
Okay.
A private school out there.
Okay.
And she quit her teaching job and became a manager for the group, and a business manager. And she held the business part, you know, and from there on, we were lucky. We hooked up with a good agent and just worked all the time, you know.
Okay. Let me go back before I do that, though. What places did you travel, before you came back here to settle down, what kind of places did you travel to and play at?
Canada, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, no. We were all over. We played all the hotels, you know, big hotels.
So tell me, how did you get the name the Murphys? Where'd that come from?
Came from my name.
Did you say, I'm going to call it the Murphys?
Yes, well, the only reason I said I'm going to call it the Murphys is because I had the band members, we were trying to think of a name.
Uh-huh.
And they would come up with some dumb names, the bathtub rings and all this junk, you know. And I said, just call it the Murphys until you think of something else. It's been the Murphys ever since.
Ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Same thing with the nightclub.
Okay. Let's go talk about that. Now, how long have you been at that location?
Almost 20 years now.
20 years.
Yeah.
Now, was that your first club in Toledo?
No.
That you owned?
No. There was another one that's over by the Tatum Memorial thing they just put up.
Mm-hmm.
Right next to it is a building. It'll be to your left if you're facing the arena. It'll be to your left, and there's a huge bass that's painted on the side of the building.
Okay.
And that was the first place. We were there for a short-term lease, about 5 years.
Okay. Okay. So you then moved from there to your current location.
Now, the way we got into this place that we are now, we played a concert in town, and the owners of that place we're in now offered us a 7-year contract for road money.
Okay.
So we quit the road and stayed there 7 years. 7 years is up. We got our own place.
So you stayed there as the house band for 7 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so then once you completed that obligation, how'd you then own it after that then?
Because we went to this short-term lease place, and from there.
Okay, gotcha.
To
Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing currently. I mean, you're like 77 now, and you're still playing like 6 nights a week down at Murphy's Place. Do you ever get tired?
No. That's my medicine. To get up and play. I can't wait to get there. Can't wait to get on that bass tonight. And I got a bass at home that I wake up sometime, you know, and get on that.
Do you really?
Yeah.
So that's really, really your passion.
Right. That's the truth, yeah.
I was going to ask, how do you find the energy? But you, obviously you find some kind of way because that's what you enjoy doing.
Right.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about your relationship with Claude Black. I know you guys have been playing together, you mentioned, for at least 60 years.
Right.
How did the two of you meet?
Well, he come over from Detroit playing for a preacher. He was this preacher's piano player.
Okay.
And my father, or my parents, had some connection, you know, with this preacher that lives in Detroit. And his church was down in Indiana.
Okay.
And Claude was playing there. And as a matter of fact, we tell the people that from that church, after being kicked out of that church, we went a half a block down the street, and there was this M&L bar. And we went there, and the members followed us, and it's been history ever since.
Wow.
You know?
So you guys have been then colleagues and musicians for at least 60 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, okay, now, that's a long time. Have you guys, how do you deal with disagreements? Because you seem to get along so well now on stage. How do you deal with disagreements?
Well, if he said something, you know, and I know it's wrong and everything, I say that's wrong, and I don't want to argue about it or nothing. It's just wrong. And he's same thing with me, you know, like, and he has ways of, you know, like Saturday night. Every now and then, you know, he feels that he's got to get up and give a speech to the audience. I yell out, speech, and that's a chain of thought up. You know?
Yeah. But there seems to be obviously such great chemistry between the two of you.
Oh, yeah.
It's just great to see you guys work together.
Mm-hmm. Well, he knows I know history of him. I can remember one time he told his wife he's going to the store to get some bread. He didn't come back for 3 years. And Clifford, I know damn well you know where he is.
But of course, being the good friend that you are, you didn't know, did you?
No.
Of course you did.
I haven't seen him.
Okay. Again, you've been playing, the bass and for so long, and you've played with a lot of great musicians, obviously. Are great musicians born, or something that was it a calling?
Everybody's different.
Sure. Okay.
Art Tatum, real natural.
Okay.
Ray Brown, a born natural. Everybody has
How about Johnny O'Neill?
Johnny O'Neill, a natural.
Okay.
Everything. Mm-hmm.
Claude Black?
A natural, a real natural.
Clifford Murphy?
Still learning.
Do you think you're still learning?
Honest to God, I am, I learn something every night, That's the truth. And I want to keep on learning,
Okay. In fact, is that one of the reasons? I know that on, I think, Thursday nights, it's open mic night where you have a lot of young artists playing with you. Why do you do that? I mean, why?
Well, because this is how we come along. It was harder for us, though, than it is for them. Because when we were coming up, the older guys would take the music up from the piano and hit us over the head with it. Tell us, don't come back till you get this note right. Stay home and practice and all this, But I feel a thing for these younger people, that I want them to learn, and some of them are learning, unless they get a big head about it,
Sure.
Everything. Tell themselves they're great. Say you do that, well, that's the end of your learning experience,
Do you ever see some kids that you just say, wow, that kid has a really great potential?
Oh yeah. I see it in a lot of them, that come down there.
Do you ever feel intimidated by playing with you and Claude at all, or do they just come?
Some of them do.
Do they?
Yeah, some of them do. As a matter of fact, we had some of them, like the drummer Sean Dobbins, and that was on the CD with us. He right out of high school, he has well, when he joined us, he thought he knew everything, and we set him down and got him straightened out, and he had told everybody, he said, there are a bunch of colleges, but the biggest and the best college he ever went to is Clifford Murphy and Claude Black School.
Is that right?
Yeah, because we were telling him, we told him the truth about things, how to play this and how to play that,
And so it's important for kids, you said at one point, to at least learn the standards. So once you learn the standards, you can play anything.
Right. Well, that's the way it should go, But a lot of them, as a matter of fact, I read in the paper last week, where this guy is playing guitar and he's got this two young guys joining him, and he says, they brought some new music to the scene, and they haven't learned the old music.
Sure.
And for these guys, I figure they only go so far,
Now, I've noticed when you're playing, even I can't tell if you're reading music. Are you playing? Do you just know so many tunes by memory? Do you just start playing?
There are some things. If it's a new thing, we have music for that.
Okay.
Or one of those singers come in with some music. We have music for that. It's the way she wanted it done.
Sure.
But for most of those tunes, we've been playing so long. That's everything's memorized.
Okay. Okay.
As a matter of fact, both of us can fall asleep and still play.
Still play it. But you're able to read music, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for some young musicians, they say, well, I play better by ear. How important is it to be able to read music?
Well, it's important because you may meet somebody or may get in a band that wants a certain arrangement, and if you haven't got the music ability or to, you can't read. Mm-hmm. Personally, I can't stand up there, and if they wrote everything with a note and put it in there, personally, I couldn't do that. But if the chords, there are only so many notes in a chord, But I got the chords memorized.
Okay.
And if they write the chords down, this is what I follow.
Okay.
Unless they want a certain lick or something,
Sure, okay. Let's shift gears for the last time here and talk a little bit specifically about Art Tatum. He's known as being one of the greatest piano players that ever lived. Mm-hmm. What comes to mind when you think about the gift that Art Tatum had?
What comes to mind?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I think about is that's God sent. For somebody to play the way he does, And if you close your eyes, you'll think there are 2 or 3 people playing the piano at one time. As a matter of fact, he has a record out where he's playing one song with one hand and another song with this hand. And then for somebody to do that, he has to be a servant of God. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a God-given gift that he gave us. Okay. Let me ask you, do you think that, we talked a little bit earlier about how musicians used to be and having these old-time jam sessions. Do you think that musicians today are as close as they were 20, 30 years ago?
You mean knitted together?
Yeah.
If you're from Detroit, because those guys, that's the one big difference in Toledo and Detroit, and that's why they're all over the world. The Detroit musicians, they still have that group type thing going. They get together, and play.
Well, why is that missing in Toledo?
Well, I can't say for sure, but probably egos.
Sure.
And like they say, egos kill more cancer than cancer.
Sure. Okay, and I know that you've played with a lot of great people, Fathead Newman, and among others. What was that experience like playing with him?
Oh, it was great. I enjoyed playing with him. He was such a nice person on top of it. Okay. But I enjoy playing with him.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Are there any musicians that you've not had a chance to play with that you would say, man, I would love to play with so-and-so?
There probably is, but the ones that I have played with, that's seems like more than enough.
Okay.
Cootie Williams was a guy I played with in the early '60s.
Okay.
And Cootie Williams used to play with the great Duke Ellington,
Okay, good. Mm-hmm. Okay, Mr. Murphy, then as we start to wind down, a couple other just quick questions here. Again, as I indicated, you've had such a wonderful, long, distinguished career. Looking back, would you do anything differently?
Well, probably, well, there are a lot of things I wouldn't do.
Okay.
That I've done, but probably, but it would be about music.
Music. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I know that some musicians fall prey to drugs and alcoholism. How did you manage to escape that?
Well, when I was a kid, I didn't escape it. I tried everything, but that's not, it just wasn't for me, and then playing with other musicians, I learned how to stay away from this one, or this one had more business on its head. I would go with this way rather than to go, this way.
Okay.
But I don't even drink,
Okay. Okay.
I guess, but it's Lady Rusty. She said, "Well, Murphy, when you were younger, you had more to drink than anybody." So you.
But you managed to
You
come
had
through
enough.
it okay.
Yeah.
You had enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any regrets over any of your musical career? Any regrets?
No, I'll say I'm blessed.
Same blast. As a musician, what are you most proudest of?
Well, I'm proud of the steps that we have taken and we have come this far.
Okay.
And I'm very proud of that, our record,
Okay.
And I'm proud of myself for quitting a day job and becoming a musician when other people say you can't do that. You have to work one of them jobs. So I told them that I could be a musician and earn my way or my, from that.
Well, and you have done quite well. Let me ask you, I know this is an unfair question I'm going to ask you, but how good do you think you are?
I never want to think of myself as that great. That's why I keep learning.
Really?
Okay,
Okay, good.
that's a seriously truthful answer.
Okay.
You
Any plans to retire? I think I know the answer to this question, but any plans to retire?
Retire from music?
Yeah.
No. Never.
No.
Are you kidding? No.
Okay. I kind of knew the answer to that, but I thought I would ask anyway. Any new projects or anything going on now that's worth talking about? Any new recordings or projects?
Well, the next thing we're working on right now is another recording.
Okay. Last question. What do you want your legacy to be? How do you want people to remember Clifford Murphy?
It's being a nice old jive motorcycle.
Nice. Okay. And then we'll let that be the last word. Mr. Murphy, once again, thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming
too.
in. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, too.
Okay.